My timer has started, so I think that is the cue to start the panel. Thank you all for joining us for this FEAS Talks, Turning Challenges into Growth Points. My name's Stephen Hamilton. I'm the chairman of Avenir Technology. We provide technology to financial market infrastructure, including here in Kazakhstan, which is why I'm here. Although perhaps I should start with a confession. As chairman of a technology company, I am not a technologist. In fact, I'm much more aligned to my panelists here. I'm more used to operating exchanges, so we've been able to put together a very good panel here of a very distinguished panel to talk to you today about some of the challenges and hopefully some of the expectations of exchanges in the region. Before we begin, I'd like to say that AIFC extends sincere thanks to their esteemed partners, Freedom Broker, Kaz Minerals and ITS for their continued support and valuable contribution to the development of the forum. I have a panel here today of people lots of you may recognise, but briefly I will introduce them. Assel Mukazhanova, CEO of Astana International Exchange, Radu Hanga, Chairman of the Board of Bucharest Stock Exchange, Hayk Yeganyan, CEO of Armenia Securities Exchange, and Chingiz, CEO of ITS at the end there. So a great panel. I have challenged the panel to try and give you the information that you can't find on Google and you can't find on ChatGPT. So hopefully this is useful and interesting. So we have here a number of regional exchanges, but with a common set of priorities, from enhancing market liquidity to navigating complex geopolitical risks. As many of our member exchanges tackle similar strategic challenges, as do their users, this platform offers a chance to exchange real, actionable insights. Today we'll hear from leaders who are driving growth by localizing IPOs, attracting diverse investor bases, and strengthening post-trade infrastructure. The goal here is to spotlight strategies that are working and inspire collaboration across the region. To begin with, my first questions will be to Assel from AIX. Assel, the first half of 2025 has been a real test for global financial markets, with geopolitical tensions, trade restrictions, and currency fluctuations amplifying volatility. Against this backdrop, AIX has nearly doubled its listings in H1 2025, raising around 1.9 billion in capital. How have recent product or listing innovations contributed to turning these challenges into growth points and diversifying access for domestic issuers?
Thank you, Stephen. We all know about the current situation and current environment we are operating in. That's the uncertainty in the geopolitics. We see the trade restrictions, fluctuations in the currencies, and that all affects the capital market, the global capital market. And we see that the number of IPOs is down and substantially less than within the post-pandemic timing. And also we see that interest rates are quite high, and it's demotivating the clients to tap the market, both with equity and debt instruments. Nevertheless, we have been, as Stephen mentioned, we have been able to show good results, and our focus, which we are very proud of, is that we come to the market with innovations, with new instruments, and this is not just us who are inventing something every day, and it's thanks to our clients. We have our broker members who are coming with the new ideas and that help us to show us as an innovative institution. And also our clients, issuers, they're also coming with structures. Sometimes they are not. So the first thing is that we never say no to our clients. When they come with the structures which do not fit the rules and regulations, we work with the client. We try to invent structures which would meet the needs of the clients, but at the same time will be compliant with the rules and regulations. And that all help us to come to the market with new ideas. Just recently, for instance, we have our broker members, that's Fonte Capital, which came with the new instrument, which is ETF on Bitcoin. And just recently, there was another ETF backed by Solana. So this all helps us to be in the forefront of the developing of the capital market in Kazakhstan. And also, the very important thing is that probably I had to mention that in the beginning, that we are benefiting from the regulation and infrastructure we have built. So regulation, we have AFC regulation, which is based on the common law principles, infrastructure, which is built in line with the international practices, and that helps international investors to come to enter the market, and they will feel themselves as if they are in their home market. So these all help us to, as I said, to come to the market with good instruments and to regard ourselves and as a stock exchange which comes with innovations and helping the clients to achieve their goals.
Thank you, Assel, and for anyone who missed it, some really crucial advice in the middle there. Don't say no to clients. Assel, we talked about the exchange expanding, but a key challenge remains, and that's keeping Kazakhstan's largest companies at home. So most major national companies, except for Kazmunagas, have also listed on the London Stock Exchange, from Kazatomprom to Air Astana. What can be done to ensure that large issuers prioritize the local exchange so that liquidity is built here in Kazakhstan first?
Yes, that's the very important question, and probably the market tired of me always talking about this. And I remember that we've been talking about since probably last 3 or 5 years. And I need to go back to the history a bit. All blue chips, you may call them national champions, all Kazakh companies, they tap international markets. They go for the investor base, which is outside Kazakhstan. And that's understandable. And you know all the names, so they are all usual suspects. It's Halyk Bank, Kaspi, EP Kazmunagas in the past, ERG, and then Air Astana, Kazatomprom. They are all tapping the international market, and that they don't do that they don't do that locally. That's good because, and that's understandable, because they go for the better market conditions, for better investor base. But unfortunately, it doesn't help to develop the local market, because if you look at the MSCI requirements for the MSCI and FTSE, those issuers, they are not counted in favor of Kazakhstan because they strengthen the London market, and because those issuers, they issue GDRs, and that's why it strengthens London, not Kazakhstan, unfortunately. And I think that some of the some of the experts and people may say that you don't have the legal framework, we don't have the regulatory framework, we don't have the infrastructure. That's not true. We do have that, and we do have that at AIX. And we've built the infrastructure, and as I said when addressing the first question, investors can feel themselves as in their home market, because everything is similar as they already accustomed to. And the legal framework is there, and our regulator is very much focused on the market development, which is good. And that's why I think that we need to find a first mover who will come to the market, will prioritize the local placement. And in fact, we can introduce some tax stimulus or some measures which would help the companies to stay here, not to go to the international markets. And we are lucky today that we have Radu with us, and Radu can share with us his success. That was real success. And I told Radu today, just before we started discussions, that I am jealous. I am jealous, and that was a really great success. So that's why I urge the owners of the businesses, the top managers who are probably sitting in this audience, start your success equity story locally. Don't go to internationally, and we will make sure that investors will come here and they will see the Kazakhstan as the natural destination for good assets.
Thank you, Assel. I think that's right. It's about changing opinions, not just here, based on the framework, but changing the opinions and the mandates of the investor community. If the business is here and the listings are here, they will change their mandates and will change those opinions. So we've just discussed how to keep major issuers listing locally and the challenges of building domestic liquidity. Romania offers an interesting contrast here. We've seen strong IPO activity with Hydroelectrica listed solely on the Bucharest Stock Exchange. Radu, what structural or regulatory measures contributed to this momentum? How are you ensuring this success translates into a sustainable pipeline of new listings? And perhaps just as important, what hurdles should other exchanges be mindful of to not repeat in their own markets?
Thank you very much for the question, and Assel, thank you very much for the kind words. Somehow I was writing before and thinking to start with the geopolitics, but I will go to the second question you got, Assel. And what I can say is that I would first rephrase a statement for an American president who said, don't ask yourself what the country can do for you, ask yourself what you can do for your country. And if it's to put it in the context of our relationship with our clients, I would say don't ask your clients to do things for you. Think about what you can do for your clients. And from that perspective, if I'm looking at the relationship of a stock exchange with the companies, I would say normally when each of us get the question what the stock exchange does for the listed companies, the most obvious answer is access to capital. That's what we do. We are in the last years trying to change this positioning in Romania, and we are starting to look at the stock exchange more as a communication platform. We are saying that a company which comes to the stock exchange that helps, it's like it goes into a scene, onto a scene, it helps the company to communicate with its clients, with its shareholders. And if you position yourself as a stock exchange, because at the end of the day, we as stock exchanges, we are providers also of visibility to the listed companies. If we position ourselves in this way, you will see that an international stock exchange becomes irrelevant because a company wants visibility in a market which is relevant for itself. You want to get visibility where you sell your products, where your customers are. You start looking at the stakeholders, investors and consumers, not as being two different bubbles. It's the same group of people. At the end of the day, your investors are your clients. When you are talking to them, you are talking to from both perspectives. So if you position the stock exchange this way, I would say that helps very well in positioning ourselves, in helping the companies. You become more relevant, we become more relevant in the relationship with the local companies. And I would say from that perspective, even if I don't like what's happening in the global context, I have to say that there are positive things for the local stock exchanges, because somehow it makes the world less global, it makes the world more local, and if it's to talk about local stock exchange, it's a symbol of local.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right, and however global a business might be in terms of its client base, clients want local contacts and local context. So I think that's huge.
I would add one more element. I haven't seen, like in sports. In sports, you haven't seen any world champion which haven't been before a national champion. I would say it's the same in business. Any big global company, any big global success, it was at first a big local success. So we have to create, our job as local stock exchanges is to create that context to help local companies to become local champions and to be able to become challengers at the global level.
I think that's right. Look, we've had some great references so far. Presidents and football. We're covering all the bases. Radu, we touched earlier on Hydroelectrica, and their IPO in 2023 was a landmark deal for Romania, but it didn't happen in isolation, and underpinned by years of reform and market development, including in 2020, FTSE Russell upgrading Romania from frontier to secondary emerging market status. We talked a little about this on an earlier panel, but what specific reforms and market infrastructure improvements made this possible? How has that reclassification positioned BVB as a regional growth driver, and what's changed in practice since that status was gained?
There are a lot of things that happened, but I wouldn't speak in a very sophisticated way. I would return to what I said before, and I will put it simple. If you look at the stock exchange as a scene, the value of each scene is given by the number of people in the audience. For each of us as stock exchanges, what's important is to bring investors on the stock exchange. Often I hear when we talk about stock exchanges, including about the Romanian one, that symbol of success is the number of companies which got listed. If I'm looking at Bucharest Stock Exchange, and if someone asks me, you didn't ask me, but I hope in the future you are going to do it. If someone asks me, what do you think is the best achievement of the Bucharest Stock Exchange, I would say it's not the number of listings, but the number of investors. And we went up more than 5 times in the last 5 years. We grow now by about 30% per year. So increasing the audience increases the appetite for the local companies to get listed, because again, you as a company, you want access to capital, but you also want visibility. And I say that not only from my perspective. I'm in close contact with companies which came to the stock exchange, which got listed, and a lot of them are telling me that the biggest achievement is the credibility, the visibility, and they don't put very often access to capital on the first row. So I would say create the ecosystem, grow the number of investors, and of course secure all the things around, like transparency, good governance, technology, because you have to be there in terms of technology, you have to be accessible as a market. Communication, as a stock exchange, we have to communicate in a more simple way, I would say, because we are moving in a world which is becoming digital, we are moving in a world where we are competing maybe with crypto markets, and we see there a very simple message which is easy to understand. If we want to grow the investor base, we have to talk in a very simple way for them to understand what they are doing and what we are doing.
Thank you. I think the read across with retail markets, whether that be in traditional markets or in crypto, is something that will shape how exchanges develop over the next decade or so. We've heard how reforms and reclassification have helped Romania gain emerging market status and attract some of those landmark IPOs. If we look across the region to Armenia, presents another interesting case. So despite geopolitical headwinds, the stock exchange has shown remarkable growth. Hayk, what's been driving this momentum? What lessons could other markets learn from your experience? And I guess separately, how have capital inflows into Armenia been influenced by the Warsaw Stock Exchange's stake and by the migration of skilled professionals driven by the Russia-Ukraine conflict?
Hi everyone, and Steve, thank you for the question. Well, Armenia, unlike our host country Kazakhstan, Romania, and other major countries where they have developed stock exchanges, Armenia is a small country, and naturally you can assume that there are not that big billion-dollar companies to attract foreign investors. So we as a stock exchange consolidated all types of financial instruments into our company. So it's not only a stock exchange for stocks, but we are the exchange, the marketplace for the government bonds, for primary auction, for secondary trading of the government bonds. The FX market, we're trying to, interbank FX, we're trying to consolidate in the stock exchange. Also the repo market, the lending market. So whatever is possible, whatever is tradable, we're trying to bring into our stock exchange. So that at least as it can become an interesting point of single entry for foreign investors. We all strive to bring foreign investors into our local economies. The best would be the Western capital. Obviously, it has been an aim for any developing country to bring institutional money into your economy. And quoting Radu, who quoted the other president, it's what can you do for your own country? And how to bring foreign institutional money into your own country, because this is the best money which will have a multiplier effect into your economy. So hence, if you are an Armenian stock exchange in Armenia alone, there are more than 200 countries in the world, more than maybe 200 such exchanges. But what would differentiate you, for example, if you are owned by another major globally well-known, at least regionally well-known stock exchange, post-Soviet country, which has been very successful, that has been Warsaw. So that's why we tried to convince them to acquire a stake in our exchange. What was the effect? Again, how to bring money. So if until 2023 we didn't have any foreign institutional investors in our local currency sovereign bonds, after the takeover we did just a single roadshow in London, and within a matter of 3-4 months we had an inflow of $500 million from Western institutional investors, funds which are investing in local currency sovereign bonds, which ultimately brought with itself of FX liquidity. They started to provide a coverage on Armenia, and we started to realize that there is more interest towards already corporate bonds, which are also tradable on our exchange, and there are some primary issuances also on our exchange. It has been already 2 years. Well, again, going back, trying to analyze, could that have been done alone? Definitely not, because, for example, nowadays it's very difficult to open correspondent accounts links with ICSDs or clearing banks. You should either have a major business for them to be interesting, or at least you should demonstrate that you will never create extra hassle or risk for them. Compliance. So if you are owned by an EU institution, financial institution, obviously you are under EU regulation already, which ticks loads of boxes with itself. So as said, the aim was what to do for the country, bring lots of money, investments into the local economy. How to do it, obviously, alone is very difficult, so you try to find partners who will be very helpful for you. And last year, we started a successful conversation, which now ended up into a successful cooperation with Middle East, Abu Dhabi Stock Exchange. We joined Tabadul, and again, another regional kind of integration. A, most important thing is to bring money from overseas to your economy, and B, to try to utilize the infrastructure that you have managed to build, and also why not to become a cross-border trading or clearing house. Because if you are compliant with one jurisdiction, you are compliant with another jurisdiction, those jurisdictions which don't speak with each other directly, so you can easily become a hub for clearing and custody as well. And this is like our long-term vision to be done in due course. And again, the other benefit that we saw from Warsaw Stock Exchange is that now we have opened accounts with our custodians, and they are setting up a special trading platform in Warsaw for emerging market securities. The first one to be AMX, so whatever security will be tradable on AMX will be visible, tradable, clearable, and settlable in Warsaw, which means all those financial institutions who sit and trade in Warsaw with remote membership, will at least give them an executable visibility of our market. And regarding the geopolitical conflicts, I shouldn't say we have benefited that much, though there has been some inflow of skilled employees into our economy, but because our industry is strictly regulated, there are some language barriers, etc. So I don't think we were too ready to absorb these kind of skilled labors because there was not a big scale of business like it was in UAE or even here in Astana to be able to make their life more interesting, their work more interesting. But we have seen some good additions, human labor additions into our different organizations in Armenia.
Thank you, Hayk. You're the third exchange to talk about clients. I will say if there are any clients of these exchanges in the audience, you should be pleased that the exchanges are listening, and maybe after this you can give them your opinions in the margins. Hayk, you've already touched on some of those growth drivers, and in fact you've already talked a little to some of the modernisation efforts. So we've seen you take active steps, launching platforms like AMX Trader, partnering on digital market infrastructure with institutions like EDB. How does this help turn, I guess, the limitations of a smaller market into strategic growth points for you?
Well, again, this transformation was demand-driven, because if you want to consolidate the entire market, financial transactions, executions through your company, you need to be able to provide flexible state-of-the-art technology. And we had an inherent old technology, and in order to be able to provide new trading solutions, let's say repo, FX, basket repo, interbank lending, direct market access, fixed connectivity, data export, etc., you should have a modern technology. And with the help of Eurasian Bank of Development, we managed to completely revamp the old software, install a new trading solution into the exchange, and thanks to this new trading software, we are now able to provide, like, as I said, basket repo, which we couldn't do it, and let's say interbank lending. We just connected with Tabadl, which we definitely couldn't have done it if we would have had the old one. So again, it's a question, what can you do for your clients to bring more transactions into your company and ease their life? Because the alternative for the client, bottom line, is a WhatsApp group chat, if you can name it the OTC market, for example. How to bring this WhatsApp into your exchange. Again, you need to enable some of the clients, even the institutional traders, to be able to put quotations or to interact with each other through a mobile phone, again, using your own application. That's why if you don't do it, you will be completely forgotten, and kind of the business will, those business which you wanted to bring into your company will never come, and you will become completely useless, bottom line. And because you always have a competitor, even if you want to capture the OTC market, Bloomberg is there, is your major competitor. And this was the case with our primary auctions for government bonds. Again, we had been competing with Bloomberg, and we provided lots of extra value, additional services, like enabling anyone, even retail citizens, to participate in the government primary auction. through their mobile phone application, obviously under the omnibus of the primary dealers. And we committed, we had this platform, which was the Treasury website, enabling the people to open accounts in the CSD, but we have developed it further. Now we are putting it into the tech software in the web and in the mobile to enable people to trade, buy, and hold the securities online. Again, these are all tech developments, which if you don't do it, you'll never have the business. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's right. It comes back to a point we touched on earlier, and that every established exchange globally is wrestling with going from a wholesale institutional model to competing with not just crypto exchanges, but the likes of technologically led retail brokers such as Robinhood, and how do those exchanges attract a similar market? Thank you. I think that's interesting, and look, we've heard from how I guess a traditional market is using modernization to its advantage. If we move to Chingiz and a different model, Chingiz, ITS is not a traditional stock exchange, but an MTF. You've positioned yourself with a strong focus on digitalization. In your opinion, what ways can technological innovation help regional exchanges convert infrastructure gaps into competitiveness?
Well, thank you. All successful exchanges look the same, but all unsuccessful exchanges are unhappy in their own ways. And until recent, we had three major pillars: instruments, investors, and regulation. But now it's technology, technology, and technology. And even regulation is now switching to RegTech. I might say that we are one of the most advanced platforms in the region. So we trade 18 hours. We have 3,000 plus instruments. We have more than 300 ETFs. And if I had a crystal sphere, I would expect and predict that exchange of the future will be able to trade 24/7, giving immediate access to investors for all types of instruments available worldwide. And if, for example, you take a look at FEAS, Federation of Eurasian Exchanges, until recently it was only exchanges. But now, and Konstantin is here, so now we're accepting tech providers as our members. And even look in this panel, we have tech providers, one of our moderators, not regulator. And I would also like to echo Assel. So we never say no to our clients, but what we are saying, so please come, say your pains, and we will help with our technology. We will help to turn your pains with our technology, will help to turn your pains into your successful businesses. So we are quite widely open, and again, technology is fastly developing worldwide, not only in the exchange business. And again, we are like at ITS, bulk of our staff are IT or IT-related guys, and we are not an exchange, but we position ourselves as a fintech company, and we are more fintech, we are more IT company rather than a traditional exchange. And that's the global trend, and we are all moving there. And again, that's what we have worldwide. And again, all exchanges are now becoming tech providers and tech solutions for their clients. If that helps.
It does. Thank you, Chingiz. And look, let's be clear on this. This is not quite the new technological dawn of right now. If we go back to the introduction of MiFID in late 2007 and the introduction of what an MTF was to compete with regional stock exchanges, some of the winners there were very technology-led exchanges, and while the technology is changing and improving, that is still very much the competitive lever. To come back to competition, and my question here is not designed to try and get my panelists to disagree or to argue with each other. So I'll address this to Chingiz, but as I say, you may also want to chime in. We have now 3 exchanges here in Kazakhstan. Is this a situation that works? Is it a situation that will continue to work given the size of the economy? How do you compete? What are the challenges in that?
Well, A, it works. B, it will continue working. C, we are not competing. With IX,
It sounds like I asked the wrong question.
With IX, I would rather say we rather complement each other. We do not have IPOs. Again, we are providing where we have like mostly US stocks. We hope to start offering Indian market later this year. And again, we did lots of studies, and investors, or as I call it, virgin investors, they start trading global markets, they see global names, they invest in global names worldwide, and only then they start looking what's available on my own market. Can I buy my own bank? Can I buy my company that I'm dealing on a daily basis in my hometown? So we're educating our investors on the global market, and then we gently direct them to IX or CASE. And yes, this situation works, and it will continue working. Thank you.
Assel, are you comfortable with the current situation? Are we looking for more exchanges?
Also, I'm supportive. That's true. We are complementing each other, and of course, we even have the same shareholder, so we cannot struggle.
It's a good answer, and it's obviously a very politically correct answer as well.
We do not compete, but it's rather like sister and brother relationship.
So there can be fights. That's good. So look, I want to thank my panel for their answers and for their insights. I think you've risen to the challenge well. This was not information that you could easily Google or ask ChatGPT for. So I think we're all better off with that knowledge. The things that I'm taking away is all of the representatives here have talked about, so at least some of you in the room, their clients, and listening to them. I have operated exchanges and been a client of many exchanges, and the ones that I wanted to work with, the ones that I directed more business to, were absolutely the ones that listened and communicated. And in a world of increased technology and perhaps less human interaction, I still think that is vitally important, and especially in an economy that we're talking about here in Kazakhstan. It starts with the conversation, and it starts with people, regardless of the technology. It's still the people who control who pushes the buttons. So I would encourage that conversation to continue. So I thank my panelists. I thank you all for joining us. And if you would please thank my panel, we'll call that to an end.
Thank you, Stephen.